Welcome back to the Regent Law podcast. On today's episode, I'm really excited to talk to a couple of recent graduates who have been out about 1 year now, 1 year and a couple months. Caleb and Lili Pirc, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Caleb, it's good to see you. Lili, it's good to see you.
Yeah,
As a brief introduction, let me just say I know these two very well. I consider them dear friends. I love them. So Caleb and Lili graduated a year ago from Regent Law, so they're about a year into their career. So we're going to talk about coming to law school, being in law school, becoming husband and wife in law school, and now being practicing attorneys as well. So, and I just want to mention it is pretty early their time. In Idaho. What time is it Mountain Time right now?
It is 7:20 in the morning.
I got my coffee. We're ready.
Yes, way to go. I mean, fantastic. All showered up, ready to go on the podcast. I appreciate your commitment to the podcast.
It's great to be on. I remember sitting in your office talking about this idea, and it's really cool to see how far it's come and what you're doing with it. And it's an honor to be on as a guest.
Yeah, and to that end, you've been on the podcast before, but as a host.
Yeah. Full circle.
Full circle moment here. Caleb was a host on the podcast a couple years ago, and I believe interviewed Jim Mason, who runs Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and Lyle Weinberger, who is a constitutional pro and partner at what law firm?
So he was at Gibson Dunn for a while, and now he is at George Mason as a professor.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. So wonderful here. Okay, back to the podcast today. So excited to have you guys here. What I think our listeners will love and our prospective students will love to hear from is all these types of people listen to the podcast, but I think what's kind of fascinating about you guys, you didn't know each other before you came, right?
Right.
Caleb, where were you from?
I'm from Idaho.
Where you sit now? Where are you both sit now? And Lili, where are you from?
So I'm from Tucson, Arizona. So like total opposite end of the country, going up and down.
Okay. Well, it's interesting you say that opposite end of the country. For people who haven't been to Idaho specifically, I've never been to Idaho. I've driven through Arizona multiple times. In my mind, they almost touch, right? So Idaho is actually really far north, right?
Yeah. Well, and I was raised in Tucson, so like an hour north of the border. So I was very not in the South, but southern United States.
Okay, right. So you didn't know each other at all. What year did you guys start law school?
2021.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So as you, at this point, we're not a couple. You guys are very much individuals. Yeah. I want to hear a little bit about, for our listeners, how did you choose a law school? We'll bypass like how you choose to go to law school in general and all of that. Once you decided you wanted to go to law school, what was that process for you guys like, kind of quickly, but individually, of ending up at Regent, which is on the far East Coast, very far from the West?
What's your start?
Okay. Well, for me, I was looking for a law school that emphasized constitutional law. And actually, when I was looking, there weren't a lot of those. I had a handful that I applied to because I really wanted that emphasis. And then I'd gone to a secular university for my undergrad, and I was really craving more of the Christian conservative worldview if I was going to spend 3 years in law school. And so that's actually what led me to Regent. But how I found Regent specifically was I went on Alliance Defending Freedom's website and looking at all their attorney bios, and so many of them were Regent grads. And I was like, I got to check this place out because I really had never heard of it before. That's how I found Regent. And the constitutional law emphasis was huge. I got to be involved in the Constitutional Law Center, which has, it was just in its baby phases when I was starting, but it's since taken off and, gone on to do great things since I've been there. But
that's awesome. That's awesome. So it wasn't like, people who are applying to law school right now, you're a part of LSAC and all these random law schools reach out to you and things like that. It wasn't necessarily through the normal way. You knew so you were really into constitutional law before law school. You knew who Alliance Defending Freedom was and the kind of work they do. So you're just kind of looking at their stuff, and you just noticed, what is this? Did you know what Regent was at all before you had read that?
Not really. I think the one time I'd seen it, I'd followed the Masterpiece Cake Shop case, which was argued by Kristen Wagoner in, I think, 2016. And so I knew who she was. I knew she was a Regent alum, but I really hadn't paid it much thought until I got on the website and thought, oh my goodness, there are like 7 of these attorneys graduated from this Regent place. What is it?
And did you apply to any other law schools?
I did. I applied to a handful. I think the ones that come into mind, I can't even remember all the ones I applied to. There were only like 5 or so, but Notre Dame was one, ASU, Arizona State in Phoenix was one. But Regent was the place that I was meant to be at. So.
Well, I applied to Arizona State as well.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Caleb, how did you find out about Regent?
Yeah, so I'd heard about Regent as a school generally, I think, in high school debate. I think the undergrad had advertised. So I knew that Regent existed, but didn't know about the law school all that much. Had a friend who was planning on going to the law school, and that was about the time that I was considering going. And so we started talking about law schools. And kind of similar to Lili, I was looking for a law school that had that shared my worldview. And I thought, if I'm going to spend, 3 years in law school trying to learn the law, and have an interest in politics and policy and constitutional law and kind of that intersection, I could spend 3 years, getting a credential and trying to unlearn some of the things that I'm trying to really learn and gain from law school. Or I could spend the 3 years and go to a place that shares my worldview and is actually going to give me the kind of training that I want to have in from the perspective that I believe, and actually help me learn rather than have to unlearn. And so that was really the big appeal for Regent for me. I applied, got an offer, and accepted that offer within 2 days of applying. So it was a pretty fast application process for me, and pretty quick decision. So it was actually funny. I decided before Dean Walton called me. And so he called me and he's like, well, I guess you're coming. So yeah, welcome to the school. So, yeah, my Dean Walton calls were a little different than everybody else's Dean Walton call story. But I think everybody who's graduated from Regent the last 5-10 years has a Dean Walton call story. So.
Everyone has that story.
Dean Walton, who is our current interim dean, and anyone who is applying will definitely know who he is. It's it's interesting what you bring up. When I was looking at law schools, it sounds like you guys were very much considering your Christian worldview, your beliefs about worldview and how that might play into your education. I wasn't thinking of that at all. I mean, granted, I was 38 and I was thinking practically in Oklahoma City, probably go to a close school. I think a lot of people, I don't even know that I knew to ask the question. And I think some of our listeners might find that too. They might think of law schools generically, and that in some ways, a lot of law schools will do many of the same things. They should prepare you in a lot of the subjects and teach you to pass the bar. There's a practical side of law school that any law school that's worth its salt better be doing, teaching you contract law and tort and all the law areas. And then training you to pass the bar. There's a pragmatic side of it. But I think you guys were actually quite mature for your age, thinking about worldview, that there might be a worldview that a school could adopt and that professors could have that I want to learn from in that way. So good on you. But some people might be like me who might not discover that until the process. Because once I discovered Regent and I actually started talking to the people here and I actually came and visited, I'm like, whoa, this is a whole different deal. this feels wildly different. This is going to be a whole experience where there's law chapels and there's devotionals at the beginning of class. This is highly different. And all the three of us, obviously, at some point decided that's for me. I would say, I'm going to let you guys say. So you don't have to go. We're all Christians. We love God, but there's plenty of Christians who go to non-religious law schools who probably have great experiences and become great attorneys. What did you like about your experience being at Regent, which is as Christian focused as you could get at a law school? And we want to say too, we're really proud of the academic excellence that we have. This is not a Bible school masquerading as a law school, right? What did you guys feel about? You made the decision on purpose to come here for that reason, in part. How was the experience for you guys? And obviously you got married somewhere in between, but what was it like coming here? You paid for a product. What did you get?
Yeah, it was great. I think really prepared me. Kind of, you're talking earlier about how like law school, any law school that's worth anything is going to have kind of some similarities in legal education, right? And I feel like I got that in spades, right? Like well prepared for the bar exam, well prepared for practice, and felt really great about the quality of education at the law school. And then like it's kind of like it's not just a gloss on the school, the Christian element, right? It's the core of what Regent Law is and what the community is. And I think that's like really, really important. And it also like, it helps you think about the law in kind of a unique way. Especially when your professors are walking through in, devotionals, how like you see different aspects of the law come alive. And you see the really the biblical roots of much of our common law system. And then on the flip side too, like I think it also like you learn more about theology. You learn to think deeper about the text of Scripture, right? As you're going through law school and you're learning how to interpret text. I think it also has a pretty big impact on your personal spiritual walk with the Lord. That I think was something that I wasn't necessarily expecting, that I'm really grateful for. I feel like I grew more in my faith in law school more than any time. And that wasn't just a result of Professor Dwayne's exams and lots of prayer. It was actually a really great time of spiritual growth, just in the practice of studying the law, but in a way that like the professors actually encourage you in that. And so that was really great. That was my experience.
Yeah.
Lily, what about you?
I agree with what Caleb said, but I think what I would emphasize just a little more is just how pervasive worldview is, especially in education, right? I don't think it's actually possible to educate from a completely neutral perspective.
Okay, so I like this. We're not just talking about Regent. This is a theory on how life actually works.
Well, yeah, Lily's theory on life, right?
Yes, here we go.
No, so I was a history major at my secular undergrad, and so I just got to see really, really clearly what a non-Christian, secular, pretty liberal worldview looks like in education, right? Everything is undergirded with just assumptions about the world that are completely antithetical to what we know to be true from the truth of Scripture, right? And so you come to Regent and you're getting this legal education where all of those underlying assumptions actually match what we know to be true, because the professors and other faculty members and staff are drawing their worldview and how they just view life, including the law, from the Bible. And I think that's just super important, because if our goal as attorneys is to find truth, then we actually have to start with a common definition of what and who truth is.
And I love Dean Lingo, or former Dean Lingo, had this great line that for those of us who are around Regent, heard him use over and over again, right? But that was that like a lot of schools treat truth as a weapon too dangerous to handle, right? And I think that like to be a good lawyer, especially in the American tradition, requires being a truth teller.
Oh yeah.
Right, and that's long been the ethos of the American practice of law. And as society rejects truth or rejects even the idea of truth itself, I think that, like Lili was saying, it has a really pervasive impact upon education in a way that you really experience at Regent. You see how much the law has to be grounded in truth, and you're learning it from that perspective.
Yeah.
Man, this is so good. And what I'm also hearing too, someone might think, okay, you guys are using we language, and I'm going there. And by the way, we have non-Christians who are students as well. And they might be hearing, oh, great, you go there and you put on a cap and they tell everyone what to think. That's not what you're saying at all. I would say that we have beautifully rigorous debates within.
Oh, totally.
We love truth, which is what you're talking about. We believe that there are things that are objectively true and things that aren't, and we're going to argue for our positions on those.
Oh yeah.
And even within the primarily Christian community at this law school, there's people from very different tribes within Christianity. So we're going to have different views and arguing theology occasionally, but our main playground is the law, and we are gonna see what's different. So I think one way that plays out is in class. People who haven't been to law school, I think how law school works, the Socratic method, the discussion method in class is far superior than any other education I had up to that point. It can be daunting, and there can be students that want to hide, right? But in that context, you engage the ideas, you take them upon yourself, and honestly, you start to become an advocate for your ideas, right? And you start to argue those. And this is not, hey, come here to Regent, we have one view that we're going to try to get everyone to take. No, I mean, we don't hide from the fact that we believe the law came from the Bible originally, is where it started, and that truth can be known, and the Bible is one of the greatest anchors of truth in the universe. But there's a lot of ways to interpret that, and there's a lot of way when you think about the use of what's good and true and beautiful and right with the law. How do you govern, right? Then you start getting to even some different theories. But I think you guys are highlighting this is such a wonderful environment. I'll say this, a wonderful environment to learn to be a lawyer.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
To learn to get a lawyer brain. Did you guys find in your friendships or in maybe some of your extracurricular commitments what I'm talking about to be true?
For sure. And going back to what you said, Pat, like I think the level of academic discourse among the students, right? Like Regent's one of the few places I think left where you can have civil debates and vigorous debates in class and among friends and like still be great friends afterwards, right? I had several friends in law school who I consider great friends, who we disagreed vigorously about a whole lot of
Lots of things.
but I think when you come with it's not until you have the perspective that truth is something that's objective and can be known, that then you want to discover truth, right? And you do that together, and that leads to a civility in discourse, knowing that you might not be right, but that there is an objective truth out there. But without there being objective truth, then you're always right, at least to yourself. But when you understand there's an objective truth, you come with the humility, knowing that you don't know everything. And that provides a really great atmosphere for discussion. And so I think honestly, I think Regent is one of the few places where that level of academic discourse is not only possible, but actually encouraged. And I when I think back to that, I think about, Foundations of Law with Professor Brouk, or I think back to Constitutional Law with Professor Brad. And they especially did a really great job fostering that discourse in classes that you're dealing with really contentious issues. and you'd walk away from the class having learned from your colleagues who you disagreed with in a way that I think is really important to revive and kind of the American practice of law.
But I will say too that that level of discourse and banter, and it wasn't just confined to classes. Like that would spill over into pretty much whatever we were doing, whether
lunch, study groups,
exactly, or law review, or Caleb was involved with the trial advocacy board. I mean, whatever, the Constitutional Law Center where I was working. It was always just an ongoing discussion of, trying to find truth in all these different areas. And it was great.
Yeah. Okay, real quick, just maybe list without a bunch of description. Can you guys list the commitments you guys had in law school?
You go first.
So law review, we were symposium editors together.
Which was so fun.
Yeah. Staff editor with that.
Would that be second and third year?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
and then so staff editor second year, but on law review both years.
Mm-hmm. And then symposium and senior editors 3L year.
So directing like a weekend conference.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So keep going.
And then trial advocacy board started out just as a member 2L year, and then was vice chair my 3L year.
Caleb competed all over the eastern half of the country. It was super fun.
Yeah, it was great.
Okay, so you're in groups, you're traveling on the weekends, it's taking you away from school.
Yep.
You're having to juggle competitions with normal classwork. No, like they don't lower the bar.
Yeah, no. Yep. Yeah, not at all.
You were also
and some of that was for credit, some of it was just for the experience. Most of it actually was just for the experience. But and then Federalist Society was a member, and then vice president my third year. Started a Republican National Lawyers Association chapter at the end of law school, and passed that off to someone. And various internships too. Yeah, lots of the programs through the school, but I think those were the official. And then I helped with the worship team for chapel. So lots of random things, but
and then was it 1L year you ran for a political position in Idaho while living in Virginia?
I did, yeah. First year, ran for the state legislature. That was a wild experience we can get into more if you want to, but
we might come back to that. But and honestly, weren't you encouraged to do it by our former dean?
I was, yeah, and that was kind of part of the tipping point for me in making that decision. So
okay, so you're very busy, and on top of that, taking law school very seriously. I mean,
yep.
Okay, yep. Lili, you came and did very well in law school. What were the things outside of being a student that you committed to?
They were not quite as many as my husband. Like he said, I was on law review. I was involved with the moot court board my 2L year, but then we got married at the end of that year, and I wasn't involved in my 3L year. I just needed a little more bandwidth.
Yeah.
The Constitutional Law Center was the other big thing I did. I worked there my 2L and 3L year, which really, it was just totally my cup of tea. You got to write briefs and work alongside our former dean and then other great professors to actually craft briefs that would be
submitted. Real world cases. This was a competition.
No, we submitted briefs to the U.S. Supreme Court, to various U.S. courts of appeals that I as a student got to help draft, which was just incredible.
That's really cool.
And I think that's all I did.
You got to do a moot for a U.S. Supreme Court oral argument.
Yeah, that was really fun. That was Constitutional Law Center too.
Yeah.
You got, so I think I was in the room for that. For our listeners, many will know what moot court is. Some maybe are just learning, which is kind of, moot court generally is the program where people practice in made up competitions, practice appellate arguments, right? And is there more to it? And mooting someone is actually when there's a real case and someone's preparing often for the Supreme Court or just a big case, the person who's going to be arguing it in court will ask people to moot them, and they will go, and you will play like you're going to be the Supreme Court or the judges in that panel, and you'll shoot questions at them. So I remember going in there and seeing you dressed up like it. Did you dress up like a judge in that?
Oh yeah, we had the robes and everything. It was
Oh
great.
yeah. So in our moot court room, it's you and many of our professors and maybe some judges.
I don't recall actually, but I think
so there's 4 or 5 of you, I don't know, up there, and I believe it was Aaron Hawley, right?
It was
from Alliance Defending Freedom. So I kind of want to just shout out the opportunities at Regent.
Mm-hmm.
So here's Lili, who in Arizona wants to be a constitutional lawyer. Maybe not even fully knowing what that is and how it works.
Not even close.
Yeah, wants to work in constitutional law. She comes to Regent. She hears they're pretty good at it. In part because she looked at an organization that does constitutional law and saw, oh, Regent's on there.
Mm-hmm.
In law school, she gets to work in real constitutional cases for our Con Law Center with people from that organization.
Yeah.
One being Aaron Hawley. And you got to moot her and prepare her for an actual case before the Supreme Court.
Yep.
That's pretty fun stuff. All before you graduated.
Yeah.
Not even an attorney. You're learning on the job.
Yep.
And frankly, since then, you've gotten to do. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of jump here.
Yeah.
So you guys you get married, you graduate. We'll come back to getting married in law school probably briefly. We never know how these are going to go. Did law school prepare you? Did you guys get jobs? Did you become attorneys? Are you doing anything? Did this prep you at all?
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Why don't you tell your experience first?
Okay. So I would say Regent very much prepared me. So praise the Lord, passed the bar, which was great. So 3L year, we found out we were expecting a baby, which was super great. So I actually was very pregnant with her when took the bar exam. And
you had the power of 2 people.
I had 2 brains. I don't think it was fair, but I was super, super blessed to get a remote clerkship actually for my year following law school. So I clerked for a judge on the 6th District Court of Appeals in Florida. And he just a fantastic judge, brilliant jurist, wonderful Christian man who was just such a great mentor professionally and personally. And I got to do it remote. So I was able to go wherever Caleb needed to go for his job. And then after we had our baby, I was able to stay home with her, work during, naps, and then while she's crawling around and learning to do all the things that she's learned to do. So that job, I actually finished up my clerkship yesterday. So wow. That was super exciting. Yeah.
Here we go. Pretty quickly, students will, if they're applying for law schools, they'll see the word clerkship.
Mm-hmm.
They might hear it occasionally, or we're good at clerkships, or this school has this kind of clerkship rate. What do you do as a clerk? What's the value of a clerkship? What do you do really quick? And
so I think the way I explain clerkships is like it's a law school version of residency for med school, basically.
Okay.
So what you do is you assist a judge in working through his case docket. So what I did was I was assigned a docket of cases. I would look through all of the case filings, excuse me, whether that was briefings, the record, transcripts, and I was doing mostly. So we were an intermediate court of appeal, so we got appeals from all sorts of cases, but most of what I did was family law and criminal law. And so basically it's just my job to take all the material in the case, summarize it for the judge, research the law and the legal issues, and make a recommendation for him for what I think we should do, or what I think he should do as the judge on the case.
Someone listening might find that funny. So you go to law school, you're training all this. I mean, law school is drinking from a fire hose, right?
Oh yeah.
And you take this bar, and you said, praise God, I passed the bar. I knew you were going to pass the bar very easily, but still you don't know, right? Am I even going to pass the bar? And within a couple of months, you're doing the work of a lawyer such that you're recommending a judge on how he or she should find a case. Tell me, I mean, the first question is like, are you really prepared to do that?
I mean, I was, which is crazy. I think a lot of the learning that happens after law school, like they call it the practice of law, right? Because so much of what you do as an attorney is just learning on the job, right? You're learning new legal issues, you're learning how to draft legal arguments in a better or different way. You're learning how to think about the law differently. So you're always learning. So yeah,
You're learning about topics you've never heard of in your life. A fact of a case
right.
will bring up, I didn't even know this was an industry. I didn't know this was a job. I didn't know this happened. And you got to research, right?
Right. Well, and even, even if you're familiar with the law in theory, applying it in a real case, it's just like there's a learning curve. But I think that I can say I felt very prepared with the education I received from Regent to engage in that learning curve.
Right. In some ways, all three of us went to Regent Law School, so we can't talk about other schools definitively, how well they prepare you, what you do. But we're very proud of the preparation we get. One of our phrases is practice ready here. Yeah. And I will say we're hearing that from a lot of judges, a lot of employers, that they are very pleased with our graduates who don't, I'm not just talking clerkships, lawyers, for our listeners, lawyers, it's not like you get a major, you go to law school and there's a huge, broad array of jobs that you could do as a lawyer or even legally adjacent things.
Yeah.
And most of those people are saying they're quite happy with the practice ready nature of our attorneys.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that they're experts, but they think like a lawyer. They know how to research. I think that they've got some grit to go after it. When they see a problem, how can I try to solve this to my best ability?
And I even think in the kind of constitutional law space, like Regent Law is kind of turning out some experts in that area, right? Because there is such a focus. There's so many opportunities for training that if there's actually some expertise that can be developed there in that area or other areas when it comes to trial advocacy or whatever. Like there's a lot of opportunities to specialize at Regent Law too that I think is also pretty unique for a law school as small as Regent is. There's just an abundance of opportunities to come out of law school ready to practice, ready to be already well above your peers. And I say this as like, and I don't say this to brag, right? But like,
come on, brag, brother.
But like, I knew a lot of folks from other law schools. Had the chance to network through a variety of methods with students from other law schools from around the country, right? And we talk about kind of how prepared we felt for law school, and I could say consistently that my colleagues at Regent Law School felt way more prepared for the practice of law than their colleagues at other law schools. And not only how they felt, but that actually turned out in practice, right? You have, I've seen some of my colleagues go up against, law students or lawyers from other schools, and it just there's a great caliber there. I think that, and I think that's borne out, and like you said, the recommendations and stuff that the school gets back from practitioners that see the actual practice of students.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Caleb. We're trying to be humble, but as I've met other people too, or I've heard stories from our alumni that, they graduate at Regent. Regent, for our listeners, is quite a national school. We do have a good contingent of Virginia. We're in Virginia Beach, as far west coast, right? 20 minutes from a few beaches. So we do definitely have, I'd say, I don't know what the number is. 40% of our students are Virginians, right? But the rest are spread all across the country. I mean, we send people straight from here to the tundra, like in Alaska, to become judges, where it's dark in the winter for a few months, and Hawaii. And I mean, there's people all over. And that's not an issue here. We prepare you also in your local context to pass the bar and to understand where you're going to practice law really well. And I'll hear sometimes from our alumni, I flew back to Or I drove to Pennsylvania to study at the end of the bar for a last 2-week bar prep program with other Pennsylvanians from all over law school, like this last minute case. And they're like, those students literally were asking questions that we had answered our 1L year, or the level of their questions. He was like, hey, I was kind of shocked. He or she or think I was kind of shocked that they don't know this, because you don't know what you don't know. And we could think that our law education was very common. Of course, there's great law schools, all across the country, but
Absolutely.
I think what we're saying is we're very proud of the preparation we get. And I think one of those reasons is because whatever you want to get out of Regent Law, for the most part, it's pretty available with the accessibility of our professors and the experiential opportunities. Caleb, super quickly, 1L year. How do you run for a political office in a state you don't live in?
Yeah, so I spent all spring break and as much time as I could back in the state. Grew up there, and so had a fair amount of political connections, and was blessed by that. But yeah, what kind of the brief story of what happened was this was with redistricting. My legislative district, all the incumbents except for one were drawn out of the district. That incumbent decided not to run again, so that left how Idaho works. It left a Senate seat and 2 representative seats open. And so I'd always help with campaigns. And so I'm like, okay, who am I going to campaign for, right? So I start asking around in political circles, and I keep hearing, you should run. And I'm like, I'm 22 years old. I'm going to law school in Virginia. Like, you're crazy. And more and more people started saying it. And so I went to Dean Lingo, who was then assistant dean at the time, was my contracts professor. And I'm like, certainly the guy who's assistant dean of academic affairs is going to tell me, focus on your grades, focus on your studies. And I was kind of honestly hoping he would, so I could just be like, no, I'm not going to do it again. And he encouraged me that there's no downside to running. You want to do this long term, you want to do politics, you want to do policy, run for it. And that was, some of the best advice I got. And that, he told me, you're not going to know what kind of connections you're going to develop from that. And then it was, at a campaign event, I met somebody who ended up eventually working and hiring me. And so
you didn't win.
Yeah, I did not win. Yes. Came in second in a 3-way race, which, second place in politics is first loser. So, but it was a great experience. You asked how you do it. You don't sleep. I didn't really sleep much that year, but it was actually a really great.
Or read for property law.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't read much for property class. If Professor DeGraff is watching this, that's no surprise to him either. But I will say that that experience was really, really great in law school, and I think really grounded me in a unique way. I'm certainly not saying everybody should do this. I'm actually not recommending that you do it, but in that process, if I had knocked over 1,000 doors during that campaign, and when you're talking with people about the issues that they're seeing, with the legislature or whatever, right? It's the issues that the law is having on their daily life. Mm-hmm. And law school, especially first year, it's super doctrinal, right? You're learning to test the bounds of these rules, right? So it's you're reading these cases that are kind of extreme in their factual circumstances, right? Somebody drops a stick of dynamite on a railroad track, train runs over it, platform shakes, clock falls over on a lady's head, and she sues you, right? It's
actually that was so good. That is torts right there, man.
Yeah. Paul's graph will forever live on in memory, but I think that you read these kind of cases that almost strain reality in a way, right? Yeah. And so the law can seem kind of hypothetical in a way that's this wouldn't happen to me, right? I don't expect somebody to drop dynamite and a clock to fall on my head.
Will happen to you.
That's true.
Not really.
But in talking with people about that, really helped me see the human side of the law, and how the law really does impact people in everyday lives, right? And that all the converse of that means you also have a real chance to to promote human flourishing through the law and through the practice of law. And so I'm really grateful that I ran. Great experience. Everybody should run for office at least at one point in their lives. Not everybody. Qualified people should run for office.
That's a lot of people running for office,
Yeah.
I'll run for, like, I don't know, assistant governor of my local roller skating rink or something.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. It's a great experience. But yeah, that's brief background of that. But yeah, it was really great doing that with classmates. I had a couple classmates who, helped me produce videos or, I'd bounce ideas off of. And, my campaign headquarters was basically like a desk somewhere random in the law school. And I get on my computer at night and work on drafting stuff. But it was a really great experience and fun to do that in community.
I remember we weren't like really close friends at that point yet. I was on staff at the school and a recent graduate. I remember like seeing you on Facebook, like standing in front of the wheat or whatever on a farm in Idaho, and a very like normal, political. And I'm just thinking, isn't that guy a student right now at law school? Like, does he live there or here? And
that's what I was thinking too. And then a week later, he asked me out, and I was like, "My dude, you got so many things on your plate." But okay.
Yeah, I was also still running my agricultural business, and raising livestock. I was just more doing the marketing side, and then we started dating that semester too. So
okay, so we've alluded to that over and over. So you're busy, you love law school, you're diving in. You've got relationships with professors that are giving you advice. Just shout out to that. Our professors are so available.
So
one of the best. When we say Regent is a Christian law school, we're not mandating spirituality on any student. It's, yes, we have devotionals in every class, and there's a voluntary law chapel that you can go to if you want to. But the thing that makes us most Christian are these professors, right?
Totally.
Are these professors that are incredible legal minds that will teach you the black and white letter of the law and help you pass the bar, but who love God themselves personally and share their lives with you, and they're available. I mean, yes, you're asking him almost as a academic advisor, is this a good decision to run for office? But I think you were also asking him as a brother in Christ. Absolutely. Is this a good decision for my life? Is this a distraction from law school? What I need to focus on? Is this even emotionally? Could this possibly be a good emotional, spiritual decision for my life? I mean, one of the best things in my law school experience was maybe during the break of my 1L year, I asked my hardest and most difficult professor, who was my property professor, Mike Hernandez. I emailed him and said, would you want to get together and like read the Bible occasionally? And he's like, yeah. And so me and him and two of became my best buddies in law school met at Panera at 7 a.m. on Tuesdays or Thursdays, something like that, for the next 4 years.
Wow.
Maybe 3 years. And that's not mandated. That wasn't part of the Regent Law School, catalog. But it changed my life dramatically. So talking about how your life, is holistic with law school, relationships, and all this. Caleb asks you to go, on a date in the middle of all this, and you're crazy, but you say yes. So what's it like is getting married in law school? Maybe we'll come back to this, but there's this popular way to talk about law school, like law school's terrible, right? The celebration of like the commiseration of law school. It's terrible, right? And the bar is terrible, and can you survive it? And
that's only law review, Pat. It's only law review.
And there is an acceptance of it's very difficult. We don't want to lie to people, but so if that's the case and it's true, why would you ever, want to meet your spouse and future spouse and get married? Talk about quickly what it was like falling in love and getting married in law school. I don't know if you can talk about that quickly.
But I think it was definitely a whirlwind, because in law school you're so busy with like just doing the good works the Lord has laid before you that day, which usually is like, doing your class reading, There's just a lot of it, but I think it was a really fun, like a fun way to get to know each other and kind of a pressure cooker, right? Because law school brings out the best in people. It also brings out, like, the pressures bring out some of the worst things in people as well.
Yeah.
So you really get to know each other super well, whether that's studying together, just working together, doing law review footnotes together. I cannot think how many times we did that, which are sometimes very frustrating, So you get to know each other in this really just sweetly vulnerable way.
Yes.
And I think also, like, you're grappling with big ideas,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, you get to learn how the other person thinks.
Mm-hmm.
We probably a month and a half into dating, did the Blackstone Legal Fellowship together.
Yeah, which was super cool.
And so,
like same summer and everything.
Yeah, and so we were, like, diving into deep topics through that, and on just like real issues of life and faith, and so, like, I think we went deep really fast. Yeah. And quick funny story about that, right? I think it even surprised my in-laws how fast how quickly deep we went. And so what are
you doing on my porch? Why are you asking for my daughter's hand?
So when you so this is the funny story, right? So when you talk about how accessible professors are, and, like, personally involved in your lives,
oh no,
right? So I was talking with them at one point. They're asking me, like, which professors, like, really, I guess I was talking about how some of the professors really impacted my life, and so I gave them kind of a list of professors, and I mentioned, like, 4 professors or whatever. And they're like, okay. So then I'm walking out. I was doing my internship that summer in Utah, and I'm walking out of the federal courthouse in Utah, and I open up my phone, and there's a Facebook message from Professor Hensler, and he says, "Hey, who's my father-in-law, just called me and wanted to ask about you. I'm not going to say anything without talking to you first." And he was the only one who asked that, right? So the 3 other professors, they talked to my then father-in-law,
future father-in-law,
now father-in-law, then and so. Anyways, did his homework on me, applauded for that.
So Lily's dad was doing a background check.
Yep.
On the new suitor.
I mean, if you're gonna do a background check for a, like, job candidate, you should probably do one for someone who wants to marry your daughter. So,
and there's no more honest references than lawyers, right?
Yeah.
So Lily's dad reached out to your law professors to ask about you.
Yeah. So got back to campus. There was a story that Dean Lingo was very fond of telling whenever introducing us.
I swear, every single time.
I
never heard the story. So
really?
Okay.
Yeah. So it would be like, there's a prospective student. Oh, this is Lili and Caleb Pierce. Let me tell you a funny story about them. And we're like, Dean Lingo, oh my word, they don't even know us.
but I think, like, that's just kind of emblematic of, like, the closeness of community that you can have with your professors, right? And and similar to you, right? Like, I got to know Professor Hensler through his Cafe Mocha hour that he would do on campus, right? Yeah. And so, like, you really get, if you, I think a lot of, like, the experience at Regent is, like, you really get into it what you put out of it, and if you want to get out of a lot,
put into it.
Or right, yeah, if you want to get a lot out of law school at Regent, you can get as much out of it as you want to.
Mm-hmm.
If you put in the work, and, like, all the resources are there and available to you, and I'm really grateful for that. So
you can even get personal recommendations when you want to date somebody.
Or the other side, you could be incredibly busy,
right?
Or having to work through law school, which isn't recommended, but if you have to, you have to, right?
Yeah. You have a family, you have kids, and you can totally do that, and, like, you're still going to get a fantastic education out of your time there, and you don't have to be involved with all these things, right? Like we had time because we were both single when we started, and then we did it together, so we were just, like, always doing things together at the law school. So, like, we had a unique experience and ability to engage in all these extra activities. But, like, to prospective students who are like, wow, that sounds really daunting. I just want to go learn the law and pass the bar. Like, that opportunity is totally there, and it's going to prepare you well for that. So
Yeah, for my example, I was 38 years old. I was leaving a job in construction. I had 3 kids and moved from Oklahoma.
Right.
I loved my time at Regent Law, but I didn't do one extracurricular
There you
activity
go.
because I had a 2, a 5, and an 8-year-old,
They are
and
your extracurriculars.
yeah, they were my extracurricular, and I wasn't going to get those years back.
Right.
And I had to trust the Lord. I'm not investing in more opportunities at school, and am I preparing? And it was all good.
Yeah.
I loved my time at law school. I passed the bar, I think very confidently, got a job as an attorney immediately and loved it. Very different experience from y'all. I probably worked more at law firms, maybe specifically because I was like, I graduated in 2.5 years, just to your same point. I came, it was more utilitarian for me just because I had to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is quite a Regent Law commercial. We love Regent Law. Caleb, I'm actually, I have a feeling as we're sitting here, I think we're going to do another episode on what you're doing at this point. Tell me real quick though, when you graduated, so what is your career? Lily's been a clerk. She's a practicing attorney. She just finished her clerkship. What are you doing now, or what have you been doing since law school? Did you please tell me you passed the bar?
I did. Yeah, it's a funny experience, right? When you take the bar exam, just across, 2 different rooms from each other, and you're like opening results at the same time. You're like, hope we both pass because it'll be really awkward if one of us doesn't.
I was just like, Lord, if one of us has to pass, make it be him. It's okay.
Yeah. Selfishly, I wanted that too, but yeah. I got this job. So I interned my second summer for the Idaho Office of the Attorney General in their criminal division. Got a project at the end of the summer for the Civil Litigation and Constitutional Defense Division. Turned that in, and the next day got an offer to come work for the office, and was really grateful for that. And so that's what I do now.
What is an attorney general for our listeners?
Yeah, so the attorney general serves as the chief legal officer for the state, represents the state in legal proceedings. And so it's an elected position here in Idaho. So I serve as a deputy attorney general in the Civil Litigation and Constitutional Defense Division. And so I have a really unique experience to do a pretty broad array of civil and constitutional law. And with that title, I'll just give the disclaimer that I'm obviously here in my personal capacity and not, my views don't necessarily reflect the office. But
the fine print.
Yeah, we're lawyers, right? We got to drop those little
fine but bold print.
Right.
That's very true. This is in your personal capacity.
Yeah, but I really enjoy that type of work. I'm grateful to be able to do constitutional law right out of law school, and a broad array of other civil types of practice too. Right, I've already had the chance to help with trial prep, to argue motions in court, to handle my own cases, to litigate a broad variety of issues, and so. And I think Regent prepared me well for all those. And it's been really great. I've thoroughly enjoyed the work. So.
And how old are you all?
25.
Yeah. 25.
So you're 20. Just for our listeners to hear this, I mean, I didn't go to law school till I was 38. A few years ago, you all were in college. A few years ago, you all were single, going to college, living in Arizona and Idaho, and having some aspirations. But like anyone else, you're 21, you're 20 years old, whatever. You came to law school, you've been prepared, you literally, your brains were changed, turned into lawyer brains. And what you would say about Regent Law too is for 3 years, you grew spiritually and you just matured as an adult. You found your spouse, you passed the bar. And at 25, you have children now. Lily, you had a daughter, which is incredible. Yeah. And you're both practicing attorneys at 25 years old. And I think what I just love, I have 3 kids. My oldest daughter is 13. And forgive me if I'm sounding older than I am. I'm looking and I'm thinking, man, at 25, I would love my daughter to have the preparation and be poured into the ways you guys are being talked about being poured into. I will just say, compared to me, you sound way more set up for prospering in life at 25 than I was.
Oh man.
I loved my undergrad experience. I had only done undergrad up to 25, but man, at 25, I was still wading through life, not just like doing some random jobs and still just trying to guess and attempting my own theories of life. You guys, you seem really prepared for life, for marriage, for thriving, for society. And I'm excited for you. And I'm really proud of our law school that played a part in that, you know?
Yeah, God's been really good to us.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's only the grace of the Lord, right? And like, I'm really grateful for the path he's put us on and the blessings he's given us.
Right, but to whom much is given, much is required, right?
Amen.
So
yes,
whether that's in family, in our marriage, or me as a mama,
me as a dad,
society,
when work,
as lawyers even, and how you go about your work, right? Being a lawyer is a holy work. You are trusted with people's lives, and if you have to do with crafting legislation, I mean, this is a really good the work of a lawyer in every context. If you're a real estate lawyer, if you're an estate planner, if you're a tax lawyer, I mean, the whole reason lawyers really, I mean, it is an industry based on trust.
Oh yeah.
An industry based on solving people's deep, intense, life-saturated problems. I mean, no one wants to hire a lawyer. Your life all of a sudden collides with a lawyer when you need help.
Right.
And so cool. Well, we could talk for honestly, and our listeners will look at this episode. I think I prepared before we turned on the camera. I said, okay, we'll shoot for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it might be a 15-minute episode. And I'm looking at the camera now and it says, 57 minutes. I've so enjoyed my time with you guys. I think our listeners will be blessed by this content. Caleb, I do want to hear about the work you're doing and maybe some fun cases in another episode. But thank you both for getting up early, doing the podcast here at 7 a.m. in Idaho. And thank you to our listeners. If you want to learn more about Regent Law School in general, as always, there'll be a link below. Your path will not be the same as the Pirces. It will not be the same, and their path wasn't the same to each other. But we think Regent Law School is an excellent place to navigate life. And we hope you learn more. As always, thanks for listening to the episode, and we'll see you guys later.
Thanks for having us on, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.